Welcome to the Buddhism podcast. Today we're exploring one of the Buddha's most profound and practical teachings, the middle way, a path of balance that might just be the antidote to our world of extremes. A few years ago, I experienced what my doctor politely called a stress-related health incident, but what was really a complete burnout collapse. For years, I'd been riding the achievement treadmill, working 70-hour weeks, sleeping with my phone, and measuring my worth by my productivity. When my body finally rebelled, I swung to the opposite extreme, quitting social media, fantasizing about living in a cabin in the woods, and viewing ambition as the enemy. It took me months to realize I'd simply traded one extreme for another. Does this sound familiar? Maybe your version involves bouncing between rigorous diets and complete food freedom, or oscillating between being constantly available to everyone and withdrawing from relationships entirely. Or perhaps you see it in our broader culture, the polarization that has us sorting into opposing camps on nearly every issue. With the balanced middle ground becoming increasingly deserted territory, the numbers tell a striking story. A recent Pew Research study found that political polarization has more than doubled in the past 2 decades. Workplace studies show that 52% of employees report feeling burned out, while paradoxically, 47% report feeling disengaged from their work, two sides of the same imbalanced coin. And in our personal lives, rates of both loneliness and social exhaustion are at record highs. We live in a world that pulls us toward extremes while our well-being desperately craves balance. And this is precisely where the Buddha's teaching of the middle way offers such timely wisdom. 26 centuries ago, after experiencing both excessive luxury as a prince and extreme asceticism as a wandering seeker, Siddhartha Gautama, who would become the Buddha, made a revolutionary discovery. True awakening wasn't found in either indulgence or deprivation, but in a balanced, middle path that transcended both extremes. This insight became the foundation of his teachings and offers us profound guidance for navigating our own polarized times. But let me clarify something important. The middle way isn't about being lukewarm or uncommitted. It's not about compromising your values or splitting the difference between opposing views. It's about discovering a third option, a path of both, and rather than either or. A way of engagement that's both passionate and peaceful. Today, we'll explore how to apply this balanced approach to 4 areas of modern life where extremes are particularly common and costly: ambition and contentment, technology and presence, social connection and solitude, and perhaps most fundamentally, self-improvement and self-acceptance. My hope is that by the end of our time together, you'll have practical tools for finding your own middle way through these common polarities, not by settling for less, but by discovering a more integrated, sustainable way of being in our complex world. Because as the Buddha discovered, true liberation isn't found at the extremes, it emerges when we find harmony between opposing forces. Let's begin our exploration of the middle way, a path as urgent and revolutionary today as it was when the Buddha first discovered it beneath the Bodhi tree. Part 1. Understanding the middle way. To truly grasp the revolutionary nature of the middle way, we need to understand its origins in the Buddha's own life experience. Before he was the awakened one, Siddhartha Gautama lived at both extremes of human experience, and found neither led to lasting happiness or wisdom. As a prince, he experienced the extreme of indulgence. Palace life provided endless sensual pleasures, abundant food, entertainment, comfort, and protection from life's harsh realities. Imagine having everything you could possibly desire at your fingertips, yet still feeling that nagging sense that something essential was missing. That was Siddhartha's predicament. When he encountered suffering outside the palace walls, he fled to the opposite extreme, the life of an ascetic. For 6 years, he practiced severe self-denial, fasting until he was skeletal, exposing himself to the elements, and engaging in punishing meditation postures. Imagine deliberately making yourself uncomfortable in every possible way, believing suffering would somehow lead to enlightenment. Yet this path, too, led only to weakness and confusion. The pivotal moment came when Siddhartha accepted milk rice from a village girl, a simple act of moderate nourishment. With his body strengthened but not indulged, his mind clear but not rigid, he sat beneath the Bodhi tree and discovered the middle way that led to his awakening. This historical context matters because it shows us that the middle way isn't a theoretical concept. It's a lived discovery born from direct experience with extremes. The Buddha didn't start with balance, he found it after experiencing what doesn't work. And many of us are on a similar journey, aren't we? Often, we need to experience our own extremes before we're ready to discover our personal middle way. Now, here's where many misunderstandings occur. The middle way isn't simply splitting the difference between 2 extremes. It's not about being half ambitious or somewhat connected to technology. It's not a compromise position or a lukewarm middle ground. The Dalai Lama explains it beautifully. The middle way is not a path between 2 extremes or a compromise. It is a path that transcends 2 opposing ways of relating to the world. Think of it like this. if one extreme is a frozen lake and the other is a raging fire. The middle way isn't lukewarm water. It's learning to skillfully use both ice and fire for their appropriate purposes. It's a transcendent third option that incorporates the wisdom from both sides while avoiding their pitfalls. Another common misconception is that the middle way means moderation in all things. But some things don't benefit from moderation. We don't aim for moderate compassion or moderate ethical behavior. The middle way is more nuanced. It's about finding the appropriate relationship with each aspect of life, which sometimes means full engagement and other times means complete abstention. What makes this ancient teaching so relevant to our modern world? We're living in what some sociologists call the age of extremes, a time of unprecedented polarization in politics, media consumption, work habits, and even lifestyle choices. We're encouraged to be all in or all out, with little cultural support for balanced approaches. Social media algorithms push us toward more extreme viewpoints. Workplace cultures often celebrate either hustling 24/7 or completely checking out. We're constantly pulled toward one pole or another. Neuroscience helps explain why. Our brains have a built-in negativity bias and are naturally drawn to stark contrasts and simplified either-or thinking. Balance requires engaging our prefrontal cortex, the evolutionarily newer part of our brain responsible for nuance and complexity. In other words, extremes are the default, balance is the practice. Research in positive psychology confirms what the Buddha discovered through direct experience. Sustainable well-being comes not from maximizing pleasure or minimizing pain, but from finding skillful relationship with all human experiences. Studies show that the happiest people aren't those who avoid negative emotions or chase positive ones, but those who maintain equanimity amid life's natural fluctuations. The middle way offers us something our polarized world desperately needs, a path beyond opposing extremes that doesn't require us to compromise our values or settle for less. It's not about choosing between extraordinary achievement and peaceful contentment. It's about discovering how these seemingly contradictory qualities can coexist and even strengthen each other. In the sections that follow, we'll explore exactly how to apply this balanced approach to 4 areas where many of us struggle with extremes. But first, I invite you to reflect. Where in your life do you oscillate between poles? Where might you benefit from finding your own middle way? Because while the Buddha discovered this path 2.60 years ago, each of us must walk it in our own unique way, in the context of our own modern lives. Part 2. Balancing ambition and contentment. Perhaps nowhere is our modern struggle with extremes more evident than in our relationship with ambition and contentment. On one side, we have hustle culture telling us to rise and grind, never settle, and sleep when you're dead. On the other, we have wellness influences urging us to let go of striving, accept what is, and find peace in the present. It can feel like we must choose between being a productivity machine, a serene Buddha statue, with no middle ground in sight. I call this the achievement-contentment paradox, and it's a particularly challenging one because both sides contain partial truths. Ambition can fuel meaningful contribution and growth. Contentment brings genuine happiness and peace. The problem isn't with either quality but with making them mutually exclusive. The Buddha addressed this directly in his teachings on right effort and right livelihood. He never advocated for abandoning productive work or meaningful goals. Instead, he distinguished between wholesome and unwholesome striving, between ambition that leads to benefit for self and others, and ambition rooted in greed or fear. He taught that how we pursue our aims matters as much as what we pursue. This leads to a revolutionary concept I call effort without striving, the ability to work diligently and purposefully without the tense, anxious energy of desperate achievement seeking. Imagine bringing your full energy to a project while simultaneously holding the outcome lightly. That's the middle way of ambition, fully engaged but not desperately attached. Here's a practical approach to finding this balance. Start by examining your relationship with goals. Most of us were taught to set goals in ways that actually create imbalance, focusing exclusively on outcomes, setting timelines based on external expectations, and attaching our self-worth to achievement. A middle way approach shifts each of these elements. First, create process goals alongside outcome goals. If your outcome goal is, complete the project by Friday, your process goal might be, engage with this work in a way that honors my values and well-being. This ensures that how you work remains as important as what you accomplish. Second, distinguish between internal and external metrics of success. External metrics include promotions, recognition, or numerical achievements. Internal metrics include alignment with your values, the quality of your presence, and how the work affects your state of mind. The middle way honors both but prioritizes internal metrics, which remain within your control regardless of external circumstances. Third, and this is perhaps the most challenging, practice conditional planning. This means setting clear intentions and making thorough plans while simultaneously remaining open to change and responsive to feedback. It's planning with both conviction and flexibility, another expression of the middle way. The wisdom of enough provides a powerful counterbalance to our culture's more is better mindset. The Buddha taught that contentment, santati, is not complacency but the wise recognition of sufficiency. Research in positive psychology confirms this ancient insight. Beyond meeting basic needs, additional wealth or achievement produces diminishing returns in happiness, while gratitude and present moment appreciation reliably increase well-being. Consider this reflective practice. At the end of each day, ask yourself two paired questions. First, what did I accomplish today that moved me toward my meaningful goals? And, what did I appreciate about today just as it was? The first honors your ambition, the second cultivates contentment. Over time, you will find these seemingly opposite mindsets can coexist and even complement each other. I saw this middle way approach transform a client's relationship with her career. Sarah was a non-profit director caught between burnout from overwork and guilt about setting boundaries. The breakthrough came when she realized she didn't have to choose between passionate commitment and sustainable balance. By redefining success to include both impact and well-being, she found a third path, becoming more effective precisely because she was also more centered. Sarah established what she called full engagement hours, where she worked with complete focus and presence. Followed by genuine disconnection time, she shifted from a never done mindset to clearly defining enough for each day. Most importantly, she stopped seeing ambition and contentment as opponents and began treating them as partners in a meaningful life. This balanced approach embodies what Buddhist teacher Chogyam Trungpa called the middle way between idiot compassion and cruel compassion. Idiot compassion toward yourself means abandoning meaningful goals in the name of self-care. Cruel compassion means driving yourself relentlessly in the name of achievement. The middle way offers a compassionate third option that honors both your capacity for contribution and your need for well-being. The beautiful paradox here is that contentment actually enhances effective achievement, while meaningful accomplishment deepens genuine contentment. When we stop seeing these qualities as opponents and start experiencing them as complementary aspects of a well-lived life, we discover a path that's both more enjoyable and more sustainable than either extreme alone. Part 3. Balancing technology and presence. Let's talk about that rectangular device that's probably within arm's reach right now. Our relationship with technology has become one of the defining struggles of our time. And it's another area where extremes abound. On one hand, we have what some researchers call digital maximalism, constant connectivity, notification addiction, and the feeling that we're missing out if we're offline for even an hour. On the other hand, we have the digital detox movement, with its fantasy of throwing our phones into the ocean and returning to some pre-digital Eden. Both extremes miss something essential. Total immersion in the digital world disconnects us from our bodies, our immediate surroundings, and often our deeper values. But complete rejection of technology is not only impractical for most of us, it also means missing the genuine benefits that thoughtful tech use can bring to our lives and work. The Buddha never encountered smartphones or social media, of course, but he did offer profound guidance on how to relate to tools. In the Pali Canon, he uses the analogy of a raft. The Dharma is like a raft for crossing over, not for holding onto. A raft is immensely valuable when you need to cross a river, but it becomes a burden if you carry it on your head after reaching the shore. This teaching applies perfectly to our digital tools. They're valuable for specific purposes, but problematic when we cling to them beyond their usefulness. The middle way approach to technology isn't about finding some perfect average amount of screen time. It's about intentional engagement, using digital tools in ways that serve your deeper values rather than letting them use you. Here's a practical framework I call intentional boundaries. Rather than setting arbitrary limits on technology use, this approach asks you to align your digital habits with your core values. Start by identifying 2 to 3 ways technology genuinely enhances your life. Perhaps it connects you with loved ones far away, helps you learn new skills, or enables meaningful work. Then identify 2 to 3 ways technology tends to diminish your life. Maybe it fragments your attention, triggers comparison, or keeps you up at night. Now for the middle way magic. Instead of trying to maximize the benefits while eliminating all downsides, an impossible goal that leads to frustration, create boundaries that protect your core values while accepting imperfection. For example, you might establish a no phones at meals rule to protect family connection, a no screens an hour before bed policy to support rest, or a social media only after important work is done boundary to maintain focus. Notice that these boundaries aren't about rejecting technology, but about creating containers for its use that align with what matters most to you. This is very different from approaches that demonize technology or treat screen time as something to minimize at all costs. The Buddhist concept of mindfulness offers another powerful approach to digital balance. Mindfulness isn't about emptying your mind, it's about knowing what your mind is full of. Applied to technology, this means becoming aware of what you're seeking when you reach for your device. Are you looking for connection, information, distraction from discomfort, entertainment, no judgment here. All these motivations are human. But awareness creates choice where habit previously operated on autopilot. Try this practice. The next time you feel the urge to check your phone, pause for just 3 seconds and ask, what am I looking for right now? Then, as you use the device, notice whether you're actually getting what you sought. This tiny pause doesn't require giving up technology. It simply brings consciousness to how you're using it. For more structured practice, consider implementing what some call technology Sabbaths, specific periods where you deliberately disconnect from digital devices. This might be as simple as the first hour after waking or as extended as a weekend day. The key is not the duration but the quality of attention during the offline period. Can you be fully present with whatever you're experiencing without the digital escape hatch? One participant in our mindful technology workshop created what he called sacred tech-free zones in his life: dinner with his children, his morning meditation, and weekend hikes became completely device-free. Rather than feeling deprived, he reported these zones became islands of sanity that replenished him. Meanwhile, he remained fully engaged with technology for work and certain leisure activities, but with greater intentionality and less automatic checking. What's fascinating is that research on digital well-being confirms the wisdom of the middle way. Studies show that it's not the amount of time spent with technology that predicts negative outcomes, but rather the quality of that engagement. Passive, reactive usage correlates with reduced well-being, while intentional, value-aligned usage can enhance life satisfaction. It's not about how much, it's about how. The goal isn't to achieve some perfect relationship with technology. That's another subtle trap. The goal is to continually return to awareness and intention as our digital landscape evolves. This brings us to another key aspect of the middle way. It's not a static balance point but a dynamic, ongoing adjustment. Just as a skilled tightrope walker makes countless micro-adjustments to maintain balance, we continually refine our relationship with technology based on our current needs and circumstances. In this way, the middle way offers liberation from both digital addiction and the stress of trying to live as if the digital revolution never happened. It's a path of enlightened engagement that allows us to use these powerful tools without being used by them. As the Zen saying goes, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. In our context, before wisdom, check phone, send email. After wisdom, check phone, send email, but with awareness, intention, and alignment with what truly matters. Part 4. Balancing social connection and solitude. We humans are wonderfully, comically contradictory when it comes to our social needs. We crave deep connection yet feel drained by too much socializing. We want meaningful relationships but also yearn for solitude. And in our modern world, this natural tension has become increasingly challenging to navigate. On one extreme, we have what psychologists call hypersociality, the constant connection facilitated by digital communication, social obligations, and work cultures that prioritize collaboration over contemplation. The average person now spends roughly 80% of their waking hours either communicating with others or consuming content created by others. That's a lot of input from other minds. At the other extreme, we have isolation and disconnection. Even before the pandemic, loneliness was described as an epidemic, with 61% of Americans reporting feeling lonely on a regular basis. And studies show that chronic loneliness has health impacts comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. What's fascinating is that many people paradoxically experience both extremes, feeling socially exhausted yet deeply lonely. How is this possible? Because quantity of connection doesn't equal quality. We can be surrounded by people or in constant digital communication yet still miss the authentic connection our hearts truly need. The Buddha's teaching offers profound guidance for this modern dilemma. He established a community, Sangha, as essential to the spiritual path, yet also emphasized regular periods of solitude for deeper contemplation. In fact, the very structure of traditional Buddhist monasticism reflects this balance, periods of intensive community practice interspersed with retreats for individual meditation. This ancient wisdom mirrors what contemporary psychology confirms. Human well-being requires both meaningful connection and restorative solitude. Neither alone is sufficient. They are interdependent aspects of a healthy social life. Let's explore how to apply this middle way approach to our relationships. Start by creating what I call a relational portfolio, a conscious assessment of your social connections across different categories: intimate relationships, close friendships, community or group connections, and what sociologists call weak ties, acquaintances, neighbors, the barista who knows your order. Most of us have imbalances in this portfolio. Perhaps lots of superficial connections but few intimate ones. Or a few very close relationships but limited community engagement. The middle way isn't about having the same amount in each category. It's about mindfully curating your social world to include both depth and breadth, intimate connection and communal belonging. This varies for introverts and extroverts, of course. But everyone needs some mix of both close bonds and broader social context. Next, consider the quality of your solitude. There's a world of difference between loneliness, unwanted isolation, and solitude, purposeful aloneness. True solitude isn't about scrolling through social media alone on your couch. That's actually a form of disconnected social stimulation. Genuine solitude involves being fully present with yourself, whether through meditation, creativity, nature connection, or simply resting in unstructured time. Buddhist practice distinguishes between skillful and unskillful solitude. Unskillful solitude is driven by aversion, fear, or self-judgment, withdrawing from others as a form of protection. Skillful solitude is motivated by self-knowledge, restoration, and the desire to cultivate inner resources that ultimately enhance your connections with others. The intention behind your solitude matters as much as the practice itself. Let's try a simple reflection exercise. Think about your most recent social interaction and your most recent period of solitude. For each, ask, did this experience leave me feeling energized or depleted? Connected or disconnected from myself and others? Clear or confused? Notice that the answer isn't determined by whether you were alone or with others, but by the quality of presence you brought to each experience. A practical approach to finding your social middle way is to create what I call connection rituals and solitude rituals, regular practices that honor both needs. A connection ritual might be a weekly meal with loved ones where phones are put away, a monthly community service project, or a daily check-in with a close friend. A solitude ritual could be a morning meditation practice, an evening walk alone, or a quarterly personal retreat day. The Buddhist practice of deep listening offers a beautiful middle way between losing ourselves in others and remaining isolated in our own perspective. When we truly listen, not just waiting for our turn to speak or formulating our mental response, we simultaneously connect deeply with another person while maintaining our own centered presence. It's connection without loss of self. Try this practice the next time you're in conversation, for 1 minute. Give your complete attention to the other person. Put aside your own thoughts, judgments, and the urge to formulate your response. Simply be present with their words, emotions, and nonverbal communication. Notice how this quality of attention creates a different kind of connection, one that honors both the relationship and your own presence. One participant in our mindfulness course discovered her personal middle way when she realized she'd been oscillating between people-pleasing, saying yes to every invitation, and complete withdrawal, canceling plans out of social exhaustion. Her breakthrough came when she began making fewer social commitments but showing up for them with fuller presence. She described it as seeing friends less often but actually being there when I do. The result was deeper connections with less overall social time, a perfect example of the middle way. The paradox here is beautiful. Quality solitude actually enhances your capacity for authentic connection, while meaningful connection replenishes your ability to be alone with yourself. When balanced, these seemingly opposite needs strengthen rather than compete with each other. This is particularly important in romantic relationships, where we often expect one person to meet all our social needs, an impossible task that creates unhealthy dependence. The middle way in partnership involves what psychologists call differentiation, maintaining your individual selfhood while also deeply connecting. It's neither fusion, where boundaries disappear, nor detachment, where walls separate, but a dynamic dance of togetherness and autonomy. In our hyper-connected yet often lonely world, consciously cultivating both meaningful connection and restorative solitude is a revolutionary act. It goes against both the constant connectivity of digital culture and the individualism that can lead to isolation. The middle way offers a more sustainable, fulfilling approach to our inherently social nature, one that honors both our need for connection and our need for time with ourselves. Part 5. Balancing self-improvement and self-acceptance. At the heart of our struggle with extremes lies perhaps the most fundamental paradox of all. How do we balance the desire to grow and improve ourselves with the wisdom of accepting who we already are? This tension touches everything from our personal development journeys to our spiritual practices, from our relationships to our careers. On one side, we have what I call the perpetual improvement project, the belief that happiness lies just on the other side of fixing our flaws, optimizing our habits, and becoming some idealized version of ourselves. The $11 billion self-improvement industry thrives on this premise, promising that with the right morning routine, productivity system, or meditation practice, we'll finally become the person we're meant to be. On the other side lies complacency or resignation, giving up on growth in the name of self-acceptance. Perhaps after years of exhausting self-improvement efforts that never seem to arrive at lasting fulfillment. I am what I am, this position declares, sometimes with wisdom but other times with a subtle undertone of defeat. The Buddha addressed this dilemma with characteristic insight. In teaching the concept of tathata or suchness, he emphasized the importance of seeing reality exactly as it is, without the distortions of craving or aversion. Yet he also established a path of practice, the Noble Eightfold Path, for developing qualities that lead to greater freedom and compassion. This wasn't a contradiction but a profound both and approach. We can fully acknowledge our present reality while also engaging in practices that foster positive change. This apparent paradox contains a liberating truth. Genuine growth requires acceptance of present reality. When we reject or fight against what is, we actually create inner resistance that blocks authentic transformation. It's like trying to build a house while simultaneously denying the existence of the ground beneath your feet. Let me share a practical framework for finding your middle way between improvement and acceptance. I call it the developmental compassion approach, and it starts with a simple but profound shift in how you relate to the aspects of yourself you wish to change. First, try this reflection. Think of a quality you're currently trying to improve, perhaps patience, discipline, or confidence. Notice your internal narrative about this quality. Is there judgment, frustration, or urgency? Is there an underlying belief that you will be more worthy or lovable when you've fixed this part of yourself? Now, experiment with a different approach. Imagine relating to this aspect of yourself with the same compassionate curiosity you would show a dear friend or a child who's learning something new. This doesn't mean abandoning the desire for growth. It means creating the psychological safety that actually makes growth possible. Research in neuroscience supports this approach. When we're in a state of self-criticism or judgment, our brain's threat response activates, limiting access to the prefrontal cortex functions needed for learning and change. Conversely, self-compassion activates our caregiving system, creating neurological conditions that support growth and integration. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron captures this beautifully. We already have everything we need. There is no need for self-improvement. All these trips that we lay on ourselves, the heavy-duty fearing that we're bad and hoping that we're good. The identities that we so dearly cling to, the rage, the jealousy and the addictions of all kinds, never touch our basic wealth. They are like clouds that temporarily obscure the sun. This perspective doesn't negate the value of skillful effort, but it transforms how we approach it, from struggling against what we perceive as brokenness to nurturing our innate capacities for awareness, compassion, and wisdom. Here's a middle way practice for working with habits you want to change. Next time you notice yourself engaging in a pattern you'd like to shift, perhaps procrastination, negative self-talk, or impatience with others, try the acknowledge, allow, adjust approach. First, acknowledge the pattern without judgment. I notice I'm procrastinating right now, or I'm aware that I'm speaking harshly to myself. Next, allow the experience to be present without fighting it. This doesn't mean resigning yourself to the pattern forever. It simply means not adding a layer of resistance to what's already happening. Finally, from this more accepting space, explore whether an adjustment is possible, not from self-rejection, but from self-care. How might I engage with this task in a way that honors both my need for structure and my need for autonomy? Or, how would I speak to a friend in this situation? This three-step process embodies the middle way, neither forcing change through self-criticism nor abandoning growth in the name of acceptance. It's a both and approach that creates conditions for authentic transformation. Another powerful practice is what psychologists call both and thinking, the capacity to hold seemingly contradictory truths simultaneously. Try completing these sentences. I am doing my best, and I can learn to do better. I accept myself as I am, and I am committed to growth. I have limitations, and I have unrealized potential. Notice how different this feels from the either or thinking that dominates much of our self-relationship. The middle way isn't about finding a lukewarm compromise between acceptance and growth. It's about embracing both fully, recognizing that they're complementary rather than contradictory. I worked with a client named Michael who embodied this transformation, after years of aggressive self-improvement efforts that left him feeling perpetually inadequate. He discovered a more balanced approach, rather than abandoning his meditation practice when it became another self-improvement project. He shifted his approach. I started sitting not to become a better person, he told me, but to become more familiar with the person I already am. Paradoxically, this acceptance-based approach led to more meaningful growth than years of striving had produced. This middle way between improvement and acceptance extends beyond personal development to our spiritual journeys. Many spiritual traditions, including Buddhism, contain the seeming paradox that we are simultaneously perfect as we are on a path of development. As Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki famously said, "You are perfect exactly as you are, and you could use a little improvement." Rather than seeing this as a contradiction, we can recognize it as a profound truth about human nature. We are whole in our essence, yet always evolving in our expression. We are both being and becoming. The middle way isn't about choosing between these truths, but about embracing the creative tension between them. This balance transforms not only our relationship with ourselves, but also how we relate to others. When we hold this both and perspective toward ourselves, we naturally extend it to those around us, seeing both their inherent worthiness and their growing edges with the same compassionate clarity. This is the foundation of true intimacy and community. As we cultivate this balanced approach, we discover something remarkable. Self-acceptance accelerates meaningful growth, while authentic development deepens our self-acceptance. These apparent opposites, when held in dynamic balance, reveal themselves as partners in the dance of human flourishing. As we bring our exploration of the middle way to a close, let's gather the threads of what we've discovered. We've examined 4 fundamental areas where extremes often pull us off center: the balance between ambition and contentment, between technology and presence, between social connection and solitude, and between self-improvement and self-acceptance. In each domain, we've seen that the middle way isn't about compromise or moderation, it's about integration and transcendence. It's not walking a tightrope between opposing forces, but dancing with them, allowing their creative tension to generate something more whole than either extreme alone could offer. What's beautiful about these 4 domains is how they support and reinforce each other. When we find balance between ambition and contentment, we naturally create space for both meaningful connection and restorative solitude. When we relate to technology with intentional boundaries, we protect our capacity for both productive work and present moment awareness. And underlying it all, when we balance self-improvement with self-acceptance, we create the psychological foundation that makes all other forms of balance possible. I invite you to identify just one area from today's exploration that feels most relevant to your life right now. Perhaps you recognized yourself in the productivity burnout cycle, or in the digital maximalism trap, or in the tension between social exhaustion and loneliness. Whatever resonated most strongly, consider one small step toward greater balance in that domain this week. Remember that the middle way isn't about sweeping lifestyle changes or perfect equilibrium. It's about continuous recalibration, a living practice of noticing when you've drifted toward one extreme or another, and gently finding your way back to center. Think of it as similar to riding a bicycle. Staying balanced requires constant small adjustments, not a single perfect position. For this ongoing practice of recalibration, I offer a simple daily reflection. Each evening, ask yourself, where did I experience balance today? Where did I notice myself pulled toward extremes? This awareness itself becomes the foundation for more skillful choices. As the Buddha taught, mindfulness is the path to the deathless, thoughtlessness is the path to death. Our awareness of imbalance is the first step toward restoring harmony. The Buddha described the fruits of the middle way with these words: by avoiding these 2 extremes, the Tathagata has realized the middle path. It gives vision, it gives knowledge, and it leads to calm, to insight, to enlightenment, to nibbana. Notice that the benefits encompass both clarity, vision, knowledge, insight, and peace, calm, enlightenment, nibbana. This integration of clear seeing and deep peace is the gift of the middle way, not just in formal meditation but in every aspect of our daily lives. In our world of increasing polarization and extremes, choosing the middle path is actually a radical act. It requires swimming against powerful cultural currents that push us toward maximization, optimization, and black and white thinking. It asks us to embrace complexity and paradox in an age that craves simplistic answers. And perhaps most challengingly, it invites us to hold our own views with both conviction and humility, another expression of the middle way. Yet this very challenge makes the middle way so relevant to our times. As author F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. In our polarized world, the capacity to hold creative tension between opposing values isn't just a spiritual skill, it's a crucial cultural contribution. In our next episode, we'll explore transforming anger through Buddhist practice, another application of middle way wisdom to one of our most challenging emotions. We'll discover how to work with anger's energy without being consumed by it, neither suppressing this powerful emotion nor being ruled by it. As we close, I invite you to join me in a brief moment of centered awareness, a direct experience of the balance we've been exploring. Take a deep breath and feel the natural equilibrium of your body. Notice how your attention can be both focused and spacious, both alert and relaxed. This balanced awareness isn't something you need to create or achieve. It's your natural state when you're not pulled toward extremes. The middle way isn't a distant goal, it's the home we return to again and again. Thank you for exploring this timeless wisdom with me today. May you find your own unique expression of the middle way, not as a compromise between extremes, but as a path of integration that embraces life's full richness. In the beautiful words of Zen teacher Joan Halifax, the middle path is not about finding a comfortable place between extremes. It's about touching both heaven and earth at once. Until next time, may your steps be balanced, your heart be full, and your journey be illuminated by the wisdom of the middle way.